Texas escapes Houston late 31-24 here at TDECU Stadium in H-Town. Alongside Eric Henry, I'm Tommy Yarrish. This is the Horns 24/7 Instant Reaction. A lot to unpack here, Eric, truly. The biggest thing for right now, Texas coming into this game, the number 8 team in the country. They lost on the final possession against Oklahoma. People still consider this to be a very talented Texas team. A lot of people coming into tonight didn't expect a close matchup, myself included, yourself included. Has Texas maybe lost the trust of some people with a close game like this, where they led 21-0 very early in the game and kind of just let it slip away from there?
Tommy, that last sentence, what you said, was key. They led 21-0. They had the opportunity to put their proverbial foots on the throats of the Houston Cougars. They didn't do that, Tommy. It really started with Steve Sarkeesian, of course, was 21-7, chose to go for the fake field goal, and it felt like a momentum shift happened. When they missed that, and then Houston was able to respond right before halftime with the score, it felt like things kind of switched, right? And again, it was very clear in my mind, Tommy. I know all football games, Steve Sarkeesian will say this, right? That's why you play the games, 60 minutes, all the football cliches. For roughly 2 quarters, Texas looked like the better football team unequivocally, but somehow, some way, they let Houston back in this game. So, to your point, Tommy, I think you kind of have to take the approach through the rest of the season. This is no longer the Texas team that went 5-0. The Alabama win, that's in the past, that's done. You have to approach this season for Texas, if you're a fan, and I think if you're a part of the football team, is we have something to prove every week. And what did Jahdae Barron say? He says it all the time. Every week is a championship week, right? They have to treat it that way in order for this season truly to be fulfilled and then have another shot at Oklahoma, who barely squeaked out today against UCF.
Yeah, that's the good news for Texas, that Oklahoma struggled in a win against UCF today too. But nonetheless, we're learning more and more that we may not know what Texas team we're going to get coming into the game each week. They've got BYU at home next week. And obviously another big unknown for Texas, the status of their quarterback, Quinn Ewers. He went down in the second half of this game with what Steve Sarkeesian called a shoulder injury. He was seen wearing a sling going back to the locker room after the game. Steve Sarkeesian said we'll know more on that tomorrow. Malik Murphy came into the game and led Longhorns the rest of the way. But this was really, the game was run on the ground towards the end of the game. Jonathan Brooks and Cedric Baxter towards the end, and then the defense stepping up big on 4th down to create a stop and stall Houston from potentially scoring a game-winning touchdown. Eric, if Quinn Ewers is unable to go the rest of the way, maybe just we'll start with next week, obviously. If he's unable to go, is Texas's identity now going to be a run-first offense and a run-stopping defense?
Tommy, I don't think there's any way you can deny that has to be their identity. Here's the reason why. Quinn Ewers was playing solid football. He was 23 of 29 when he got knocked out of this ball game with the shoulder. And as you mentioned, Steve Sarkeesian said, we should know more tomorrow or maybe as we get into the week about the status of his shoulder. But yes, the thing that travels is going to be your defense. You can always travel a good running game. Those have been the 2 most consistent things for Texas this year. Defensive play outside the Oklahoma game and the running game with Jonathan Brooks. And while this wasn't the Jonathan Brooks that we saw the previous 4 weeks, it still was. I haven't had a chance to see the final numbers. When I last saw, he was at 20 carries for 99 yards. I don't know if he got his 5th 100-yard game, 5th consecutive 100-yard game, but we saw C.J. Baxter. We saw him close out the game, right? So if you can develop a power running game, Savion Red, 3 of 3 on 3rd downs, right? Converting. If you can do those things, that should be at least enough for the foreseeable future while Quinn Ewers is dealing with the shoulder.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Quinn Ewers later on this week. For now, Texas heads back to Austin to play BYU. Eric, it's hard to ask the question given these weeks of the season, but what can we expect from the Longhorns when they come back onto their home turf?
Well, if you'd asked me prior to this week, I would have said that you would have known we've gotten a team that was quote-unquote pissed off, right? That was Steve Sarkeesian's words, that they're a pissed-off team that's going to be highly motivated. I don't think there's any doubt that they're ticked off, but are they going to come out and execute that on the field? That is the question. What I am looking for, what I am expecting, to your question, is going to be a heavy dose of Jonathan Brooks, followed with C.J. Baxter. I think that C.J., again, with the touchdown run, a really encouraging sign, because that's someone who Steve Sarkeesian obviously trusted enough to make him the RB1 coming out of camp. Now, from there, in my mind, we're going to see what game plan, if it is Malik Murphy, and that's a big if, right? What kind of game plan they want to shape around him. So I am expecting, like I said, a heavy dose of the run game, and then also once they're able to get, hopefully a little bit healthier on the defensive side of the ball. Ryan Watts didn't play today. Jahdae Barron had a late ankle injury. Jalen Catalon. That power defense, that hard-hitting defense. Also one that if you take a look at the rest of the schedule for Texas, they're not going to face a ton of teams who are really proficient passing. Right, so maybe that was an area that kind of struggled a little bit. We saw Donovan Smith, Texas' old friend, light up a little bit today, they're going to have that on their side. So I'm expecting very good defense and a heavy dose of the run game.
Yeah, Donovan Smith did not earn the hearts of the Texas fans back tonight after beating them last year in double overtime at Texas Tech. He almost comes away with the victory here tonight, but nonetheless, Texas wins, and that's the important part for Steve Sarkeesian's crew. Last thing, Eric, offensive and defensive players of the game. I'll let you go first.
Offensive player of the game, you know what? I'm going to go with a surprising choice here, and CJ Baxter. I do like the fact that the young running back, the true freshman, was able to come in and find his footing for the first time, Tommy, since he opened the season. He looked, to me, to be fully healthy and explosive. Kind of showed some of those signs that, maybe made him the RB1. Jonathan Brooks had an excellent game. It's very easy. You can easily go with JB. But I like the fact that, CJ was able to come in and close out because, again, with the status of Quinn Ewers, they're going to need a heavy dose of the run game. And it can't be Jonathan Brooks 30, 35 carries. He's going to need someone to kind of take the load off of him. So we'll give CJ Baxter the honors tonight. Oh, sorry, defensive. Defensive, Jahdae Barron. You can't forget about him, right? And we talked about a kid who, as we talked about, was banged up with the ankle injury, but he has been consistently, Tommy, one of the best players on this defense all year. And you see him, that is, Tommy, just really quick before we close this one up, the value of a nickelback tends to get underestimated in football, right? There was a list of top 100 players released, and Jahdae Barron wasn't even on that list. There's no way that should happen because his value to not only this Texas team, but just as the position is huge. And we saw that tonight with the game-saving pass breakup. So Jahdae Barron for defensive play.
All right, quickly from me, offensive player of the game, I'm going with Jonathan Brooks. A yard short of 100 yards, so his streak of 100-yard games ends at 4. But nonetheless, they needed to rely on him and CJ Baxter to win them this game, and I think they might need to do that going forward as well, depending on what happens with Quinn Ewers. Defensively, I'm going with you as well. Jahdae Barron, what essentially was a huge part on the secondary for Texas that really struggled today. You could say that they very much struggled against this Houston offense that Steve Sarkeesian and the players mentioned ran a lot of stuff they hadn't seen on film earlier. So not that that's an excuse at all, and they weren't taking that as one. But the Houston offense played with their A game, and everybody else on Texas' schedule is going to present their best as well when the Longhorns come into town. BYU goes into Austin next week on Saturday. Steve Sarkeesian's homecoming of sorts. He was the quarterback for the BYU back in his playing days, that at DKR Memorial Stadium. We will see you there. Until next time, for Eric Henry, I'm Tommy Yarrish. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.